Go. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today for the Power of Coaching webinar. My name is Bryony and I'm very excited to share with you today some tools and tricks for coaching and how you can embed that into your practice, and also talk about our ILM coaching certification that we are now starting in 2026. So this is where I am right now in this beautiful building. And like I said at the beginning, as you're coming in, please say hello in the chat. And I'm just going to let a couple more people in. Sorry, everybody. There we go. And today is very much about interaction. So if you've got notepads and pens, please feel free to make notes. Get the chat going. We are going to be talking a lot about yourself and your own development. So please feel free to make notes, but also I'd love it in the chat so I can see what you're talking through and how you're going through as well. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Louise. So in this space, because we are going to be talking about coaching, it's really important we set up the practice that it's a safe space. So in this space, I invite you to be open to being an active participant. So even if it feels a little bit unnatural to you to get involved in the chat, I really invite you to do so, because you'll get so much more from it and we can all learn from each other. Also, if you've got any questions or if you want to raise any concerns, please ask them in the chat. I will try and get to them as much as I can. And if there's any that I miss, I'll look at them after the webinar and I'll email you and get back to you with the answer to your question. And we may have different opinions, viewpoints, perceptions, and we're being respectful of that. You can agree or disagree with me. I'm not the oracle, but here today I'm sharing what I believe is really important in coaching, and hopefully will impact your practice, whether you're already a coach or if you are a manager looking at coaching, or whatever job role you have. We've got lots of people from lots of wonderful industries. I'm trying to scan through so many of you today. That's brilliant. And also today, you might try something new today. So being open to that, and as much as possible, be yourself, because we want to create that psychologically safe space. So as we go through, please feel free to use the chat to ask questions, share reflections as you go, anything that you think might be good for you to write down, but also anything that you think that will be impactful for other people. So as we go through, I'm going to ask you questions. So as we go through, please ask the questions and answer the questions, because it's going to really help feed which way we go in the webinar today. But let me introduce myself first. As you'll see, it's just me. But my name is Bryony. I am a qualified coach, hypnotherapist, and neurolinguistic practitioner. And I'm also a qualified teacher. And I've worked in the industry for over 20 years now, as much as I may want to go. But I have been using my practice across a whole range of industries for a long time. So across the education sector, across the business sector, helping leadership teams, customer service teams, sales teams, and consultancy within practice of using coaching to unlock potential and to empower people to, whether it's getting their results in their performance or helping them with their mindset in terms of personal and professional. So today is very much about looking at the different elements of coaching and how it can work for you in whatever industry you come from. Now, we only have an hour today and it will go fly by, I am very sure. So today we are going to be looking at a few key things. So we're going to look at how coaching can transform your performance and motivation across a team. We're going to look at how it's really important to adapt our coaching style, because everybody is different. So with that, at Gerald Training, we adopt insights discovery, which I don't know if any of you have done before. I know actually a few of you have. So as you come in, so I'm just letting a few more people in, which is fantastic. Let me know, have you used insights discovery before? And if you have, I would love to know if you can remember your top leading colors, because that will really help you later on in this webinar as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, do not worry. But Insights Discovery is a psychometric profile tool which helps us look at different personality traits. And that can really impact us as a coach, and is something that we use within our coaching qualifications. This allows us to adapt our practice and have more impactful conversations. Now, today, we're also going to be looking at some practical coaching models and how to use them and when to use them. And then, because I said it was interactive, we are going to be using a self-coaching exercise today as well, so you can gain clarity on your own goals as well. So, oh, we've got lots of insights people coming in. That's wonderful. Lindsay, and green followed by blue. Alex, fiery red, cool blue. I'm loving that. Bring it in. So I love the fact that you have used Insights Discovery before. And if you haven't, like I said, We will find out a bit more about it later. And if you want any more information, you can email us after the webinar. So the first thing I've got us to do is a quiz. So I'm going to ask you, what is coaching? And I'm going to give you 3 answers that I've pre-prepared. And in the chat, I want you to think about which one do you think it is. Now, I know when the chat goes and everyone starts answering, it's going to be really tempting to just go with whatever you see other people putting. But I'd really like you to think about these 3 answers and put what you believe coaching is. Because if we're going to be exploring the power of it, we need to make sure we know what it is first. So, are you all ready? Yeah, excellent. So, A, is coaching a structured, collaborative process that supports people in achieving their goals? It focuses on building awareness and challenging thought patterns, empowering people to generate their own insights and solutions through reflective dialogue and purposeful questioning. Or is it B, a structured, goal-driven process that supports people in developing specific skills or improving performance in defined areas? It focuses on discussion and guided instruction and advice, empowering individuals to apply techniques and strategies through feedback and hands-on experience. Or is it C, a supportive, developmental relationship in which a more experienced person shares knowledge, insights, and guidance to help someone navigate personal or professional growth? It focuses on offering advice, sharing experiences, and fostering long-term development through informal or structured conversations. So answer in the chat. If I had some exciting kind of dramatic game show type music, I'd have it on right now. What do we think? Oh, we've got lots of A's in the room. Got a C. Got some A's. All of them, yeah. I would say A and C. But you're going to go with B? Love it. Could it not be all, depending on your personal style and persona, person you're coaching? C, B, A and C also. Oh, excellent answers, excellent answers. Okay, so I can reveal that the answer is A. And the reason the answer is A, let's think about it. Is there any words or parts of the sentence that you think may, because there's a lot of people who put A, that pulled it out, why you thought that one was coaching compared to the others? Collaborative, yeah, lovely. Primrose, it's their goals, empowering, supports people, the self-awareness. It's not always a more experienced person. Absolutely, Kieran, yeah. Louise, it's about them, supportive, collaborative, challenging. C looks like mentoring. Well done, Simon. It is absolutely mentoring. Well done. Alex, it's challenging thought patterns. Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a really interesting and common thing we have within coaching practice, is because of, particularly within organizations, the name coach can be used quite a lot, but it's not always in the definition of a coach like we're talking about today. So a coach is very much someone who is asking questions to build that person's self-awareness, to challenge things that they're saying, the thought patterns they're coming through. And we want to allow that person to come to their own insights, their own ideas of how they're going to reach their goal. Because when we come to a decision about something from our own place, it actually has much more impact. And from a neuroscience point of view, if we are connecting all of the dots, we are then creating stronger neural pathways, which means we are more likely to be committed to achieving that goal and taking action that will allow us to get there. Now, within, say, the B answer, we are looking at improving performance in defined areas, which, yes, absolutely we could be, but this is much more of a sort of training approach. And like I think it was Simon, you said the C is mentoring. That's mentoring is when someone has done that job before you and is showing you the path on how to improve themselves. So there are some very different definitions and distinctions that we need to be aware of, especially when we're using coaching within our day-to-day practice. Now, of course, all of the other things are extremely useful. So a lot of the time you may find in your industry you're doing a bit of a combination, but it is really important that we do have that clarification of what coaching is. Geraldine, yes, B must be training. Well done. So who's coaching for? I mean, there is an endless possibility with coaching, but it could be leaders, managers, supervisors. They want to use coaching to increase performance and increase results. It could be people who are practicing or aspiring coaching who want to expand their toolkit. It might be more in the HR professionals or consultants and executives. And that's going to be very much about people development and developing talent and skill set. Could be psychologists and therapists, practitioners who are wanting to use and integrate coaching as part of their work. And of course, it could be parents. Coaching questions are perfect with our children. Teachers, again, using coaching to extract and get the dots connected for people to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. Anyone could be a coach if they are learning the right tools and can use it in their context. And on our ILM, Institute for Leadership and Management, level 3 and level 5 that we're going to be doing in effective coaching, this is very much a qualification for anybody who wants to apply coaching into whatever they are doing. So we are looking for people who are wanting to use coaching as part of their daily role and embedding into it. And this will be a qualification that looks at it from a more organizational context, but you'll be able to adapt it to your needs. And if you're a freelancer or anything like that, you'll definitely be able to use it for your practice. So it's very much about developing the skill set, building those tools as a coach, and then using it in the real life application. Because as I'm sure you're aware, whether you're aspiring, we've got people who are already working on their coaching, some people are new to coaching, it is all about practicing. And it's all about that adapting and flexibility depending on who you are with. So this leads us really nicely into the situational leadership model by Hersey and Blanchard. If you've recognized this model and you've looked at this before, let me know in the chat. Now, this is a very important model that's used within leadership. Now, don't worry if you're not a manager or a leader in the traditional sense. This is a model that's really important regardless of where people are, because when we are looking at how people are developing themselves, their skills, their talents, we find ourselves going through a curve. And this is a very flexible leadership model that shows the importance of how we need to adapt to be able to help people get the most out of it. So if we take this in a more traditional leadership approach for a moment, it's very often that we are in a space where, in that S1 box, where we're in a directing space, where we're telling people what to do because perhaps they're new to a skill or, a job role or something like that. And we're going to have very much, a directive approach because that's going to help support them in that moment. As they then build their confidence, we're going into a coaching space, which is much more of a high directive, but we also need to be in that supportive space where we are coaching and asking questions, getting people to recognize why they're doing what they're doing and how they can then adjust and improve and develop. Then we move into a supporting space where we can take away, the directive approach so much. We're not telling them what to do as much as they're starting to find their feet and make their own decisions, but we still need to be in that space where we're asking the right questions and we are challenging the way they're doing things, but in a way that's going to help them empower themselves to be better. And then we can move into a delegating space where we can allow that person to be able to take on new roles, new capabilities. Now, this is something that's used quite widely in leadership to be able to help people move through these spaces. But one of the spaces particularly that is the hardest is the coaching space. And I'd like to know in the chat, why do you think this is the space that perhaps many people find more challenging than others? Let me know. Yes, we've got some people who recognize this model before. Hard to strike the right balance. Thank you, Primrose. Yeah, it's learning about where do you adapt, where do you move to, and when as well. Some managers are used to directing and then struggle to adapt that. You want to avoid micromanaging. Yeah, absolutely. Shona, finding the right route between mentoring, coaching, training. Yeah, absolutely. Tom, yeah, absolutely. Changing your behavior. So you might be used to leading in a certain way and suddenly adapting is, change is hard. Yeah. People need experience to move to this section. Yeah, absolutely. Working out if people have understood your directions. That's a great one, isn't it? Yeah. We're in a space suddenly where actually, if you've been kind of directing them and showing them things and how to do certain aspects, we're now in a space where we can actually start to test that, check the learning, check the understanding, but coming from an empowering place. Absolutely. Because of the advice monster that sits on our shoulder, we tend to use to tell people what to do. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure many people, and even us as experienced coaches, have that moment where you go, oh, I really want to give advice, but you have to, because you know that the greater good is them coming to their own decisions and, ideas and action plans. Learning how to communicate in their language. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, absolutely. You've all shared so many amazing things, and you're right. It's the coaching space can be a tricky navigation because it is the space where we are having to do our most adaptation and we're having to think of those powerful questions that are going to get the most out of someone. And that is a skill that is a bit like going to the gym. It's flexing that muscle and practicing and developing it. It's not something that you just do, you just learn and go, which is why on the ILM qualification, you're going to get loads of practice. You're not only going to be coached yourself, but also you're going to get practice coaching other people so that you can refine your practice and look at how you can adapt to different people and different ways of communicating in there and questioning them to get the most from them. So coaching is such an invaluable tool in any organization, and it's going to actually empower not only yourself as well as a coach, but increase confidence, motivation, results, and more. And so this leads me nicely into stretch and challenge, because it's really important we strike that beautiful balance, because if we want peak performance, we want to be in that stretch zone. And what I mean by stretch zone, it's a bit like a rubber band. We know we've got that flexibility of moving it, but if we pull it too far, we're going to really stretch ourselves too much and then potentially ping, or we could understretch and then it all feels kind of a bit there we have a sort of comfort zone, which, don't get me wrong, we all need to be in the comfort zone at some point. But if we're in our comfort zone too long, this is where we can get bored. We can lose our motivation. We can, be demotivated in what we're doing. If we go the opposite way, we're going to get into that panic zone, the potential place for burnout, for exhaustion, somewhere that we're not going to be in our optimum to be able to achieve what we need to do. So we want to be able to support people in that stretch zone to get to our peak performance. But within this, we've got to have that recovery and regulation balance. Because if we are stretching and taking someone over to the edge too far too soon, it's not going to go so well for them. Or someone could step away from coaching completely if you're doing more of a traditional one-to-one coaching. So we need to find that balance. Now, those of you who are coaches already, how do you find that stretch zone? Do you find it something that you find easy to navigate? Or is it something that actually you're still finding your feet on? If you're more experienced, how do you find that? If you're new to coaching, which part of this curve do you think you are more likely to want to step into? Because it might be that you're in a coaching situation where you're recognizing that someone is displaying behaviors of being in that panic zone or in that comfort zone. And actually, that might be the place to have that intervention of coaching to be able to shift their mindset, shift their everything to be able to be into a more healthy, productive performance space. Let me know in the chats, where do you think you are as well? Because you might be able to look at that right now and think, actually, I'm sitting in that comfort zone. I could do with a new challenge. Maybe that's why you're here and you're adding coaching to your toolkit. Oh, Faye, thank you for being honest there. You're prone to the panic zone. Can be really easily something really easy to fall into. That over striving, perhaps wanting to be the best at what you do, either from I want to be the best in terms of a sort of more driven space, or sometimes more from a people pleaser space, and actually wanting to be able to do a lot for a lot of people. It's a very common one. Tom, I generally find myself between stretch and exhaustion, though I don't panic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that wording actually. Panic is not always the case. It can be for some people, but in that space, it can be more of a complete burnout. Like, can't do it anymore. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really important that we recognize where we fall into, because as coaches, just because we have a coach title doesn't then mean that we've got everything together and our lives are all perfect because we know all the tools. That's not the case at all. Spoiler alert. So what we do need to do is recognize where we are just as much as where we are shifting and developing our coachees. So, which is why I've said at the bottom, you can only stretch your coachee as far as you're prepared to stretch yourself. Most coaches have a coach, and for the reason that we are not immune to things, and we need to be able to recognize where we are and where we tend to fall into. Now, this can mean that we are, as coaches, very good at recognizing those earlier warning signs in other people, in our coachees, but we also need to make sure that we keep ourselves in check and keep ourselves in that peak performance zone as well, so we can be the best for the people we are coaching. Thank you for sharing, those of you did in the chat. So this brings us along nicely to you as a coach, because it's really important that we get to know you first as a coach and where your strengths are going to lie, because that's going to mean that you can come from the most authentic place as you, because there are some personalities that will naturally fall into that coaching space, and there are some personalities that may have to find parts of coaching a little bit trickier and something that they have to navigate just because of our natural personality traits. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Insights Discovery, this is based on Carl Jung's psychological work, and it's based on 4 types of personalities. Now, we don't have time to go into that fully today, but if anyone's interested in it later, then I'm happy to send you a video with a bit more of an explanation of it. But this gives us a little bit of an idea of the kind of people that we are, our behaviors that we usually emulate. And that will then help us figure out, as a coach, what we naturally tend to be drawn to. Because we also need to be aware that as we are coaching lots of different people of lots of different personality types, that we don't accidentally fall into a one-size-fits-all thing. And because of our personality, we like to coach in one way, and that we don't adapt and share that as well. So I thought I'd take you through some of the key areas for the Insights Discovery colors that show us what strengths we bring into our coaching. Now, if you don't know your colors, that's not a problem. Just see where you naturally feel like you fit today, just as a basic overview. So we're going to start with the cool blue. So this is someone who really wants to get things right. And so therefore, that person as a coach is going to be fantastic at being really structured and very evidence-based and very methodical. So if they are using some coaching models and tools, they're going to be very good at developing themselves and their coachee by using that structure and using those kind of models and tools. So I'm just going to let someone in who just got accidentally kicked out. There we go. With the cool blue as well, they are also someone who's going to be very good at using data or frameworks and very logical questioning with that coachee. So I know some of you here are coaching in more of a kind of structured organizational format. So the people who are cool blue are going to like using the data from the results that someone has got, or the sales someone has made, or the customer service responses that they've had, in order to help enhance their logical questioning to be able to empower someone to be even better than they already are. And they're also going to be someone who's really going to get into the detail. They're going to really probe down into that detail and ensure that they are fully planned in terms of what they're going to need and how they want to proceed with that coaching situation. Now, on the other side, we have fiery red. And these people are like, let's get it done. So as a result of that, they are someone who is very direct. They are very results driven, and they're all about taking action and helping their client or their coachee do that too. They're going to push that coachee to set really clear goals and deadlines. And because they find being assertive much more natural, they are going to challenge assumptions and they're going to focus on the outcomes, the future forward thinking. So the coach that was going to be joining me today, he very much leads with a lot of sunshine yellow and fiery red. So he is someone who's going to be like going, right, where are we going next? How are we going to get there? How are you going to make these actions, to feel better, to improve your results or whatever it might be? That's going to be something that's going to be very easy for that type of coach. Sunshine yellow is all about
No, I'm a big fan of you. I'm a big fan.
So this is about being very inspirational, enthusiastic,
I'm a big fan.
and getting those ideas flowing for that person. They're going to use their energy, their creativity and encouragement to get that person going, to be able to keep them motivated even when they're finding it harder. And they're going to be really good at kind of mind mapping and celebrating progress, because that's going to really, really help. I'm just going to check everyone is on mute because I can hear some other people chatting, just so we don't all hear everything. Thanks so much. And then Earth Green, we are all about getting along. So this is about harmony in each other. So this is going to be someone who's very supportive, very empathetic, very people and person centered. So with that, they're going to create a really safe space. They're going to really listen deeply, and they're going to encourage that sustainable change, and also going to bring a lot of loyalty. So that relationship is going to build, and it's probably going to be quite a long-term relationship. Now, within all of these colors, we all have all 4 colors within us. So there will probably be parts where you really do recognize yourself in them, but we do tend to have a preference. And so with that, it will then kind of lead how we tend to coach in our natural way. So for example, my type of coaching, I lead with sunshine yellow and then earth green, as opposed to my colleague who is sunshine yellow and fiery red. Now, we have a lot of similarities in the way we coach, and then we also have different ways of going with our coachees that get to the same type of results. So like I said, Matt, the other coach, sunshine yellow, fiery red. So it's going to be very much motivating that they can do it, and then how are we going to do it? How are we going to get it done? And really map out that plan of action for future focus. For myself, I'm sunshine yellow and then earth green. So for me, it's very much about giving that time and space for that person to feel safe, to feel like they can move through anything that's feeling tricky. And then we'll go into the fiery red and get it done. But it will take a different kind of direction potentially to get to that result than other coaches. And I've worked with a lot of coaches over the years, and everyone has their own style, and that's something that's really important, and something that we'll be developing in the qualification is you finding your own flow and your own style, because you'll learn these different tools and techniques and frameworks, but ultimately it's about finding how you're going to do it and what works for you. Some of the coaches that I know we've got in the room, pop in the chat a little bit about your journey of how you're finding your own way and own style, because it's not about being carbon copies of everybody. We want to find our own space and our own flow. So as you are looking at these, which ones do you think that you are drawn to? What one do you think you're more likely to be in a coaching space? Regardless if you're a coach yet, what one do you relate to? Where do you see yourself in this? Let me know in the chat. Thinking yellow green. So the earth green and sunshine yellow is very much feeling function, and the cool blue and the fiery red is thinking function. So Marie, feeling function, yeah. Faye, blue with green undertones, lovely. So a bit more of an introverted space where you're going to really reflect quietly before potentially questioning that coachee. Lindsay, earth green. Claire, cool blue and green, excellent. Simon, blue, thank you. Geraldine, yellow green. Amanda, earth green. Tom, strong blue. Thank you. Philippa, lead with earth green and sunshine yellow. Lovely. Excellent. So as you can see here, There's loads of strengths in all of these types. There's no such thing as one is better than the other at all. It's about really owning what you're great at. Thank you, Celine, blue, green. So actually coming into this space, starting to go, okay, that's me, that's great. And so you're going to be able to use that to enhance your coach's practice. But on the flip side, it's really important we recognize that there are different spaces we can navigate into that our leading color preference can also mean that we have a bit of a gap in awareness. And so as we move into this next slide, we tend to use in coaching and therapy spaces and psychological spaces the term blind spot. Now, I just wanted to make an important point that actually, although the term blind spot is widely recognized within this kind of field, especially around something called the Johari window, if you don't know what that is, I really recommend looking that up after the session because it really helps look at different awarenesses within people and their perceptions. But there are some people who may find the term blind spot offensive. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew within this context, we're using it from a coaching and therapy perspective. And actually, it's much like the reference to in a car. You know, there's a blind spot where it's something that you can't see, but someone else may be able to. This is very much something that, you know, if you were looking at people in the workplace, it's something that they don't see in themselves, but everybody else can see. And they're usually the spaces that as coaches, we are working with, because these are the places where the people development comes from. And so what I wanted us to do is also look at, from the back of these amazing things that we do here with our color energies and the strengths that we bring, we also have, as coaches, these gaps in awareness, these blind spots, and it's really important for us to recognize it. So think about the colors that you've put down in the chat, and now I want you to look at what could be potentially your blind spot as a coach, because it's really important that we recognize that to enhance our practice and develop and learn the tools that are going to help us adapt that with other people. So someone who leads with cool blue, they may over focus on detail because they love the detail. They may overshoot it, and then they may want to go into perfection, which may slow down that coachee's progress. They may also overlook emotional cues or that need to bring in a bit more of that feeling function and the empathy. So for a cool blue, they may benefit from asking more kind of open or emotional questions and allow for that flexibility, because it's really important as a coach. You don't know where that session's going to go. And sometimes if we are so rigid in making sure that things go the way that you want them to be, it's not giving the most for the coachee, because they may take it a different direction. A fiery red may be too direct or blunt, because that may come across a bit insensitive or perhaps even a bit intimidating to that coachee. And so with that, it may be that they overlook the value of just being still and having that silence for a moment, because that silence space can be really, really powerful when a coachee is reflecting and connecting their dots. They may be so driven to get the result that they don't leave that space for that deeper emotional processing. And by the way, as I'm going through these, if you think, oh, that's me, or, oh, I've just recognized that, please pop it in the chat so we can see those reflections as well. So a fiery red, they may benefit from slowing down, pausing. I know some of the coaches in the room that I've worked with, we've got a few of those who've been working on that stillness and the stop. Let us know that experience and how you're getting on with that in the chat as well, because other people I'm sure will benefit from hearing from your experience. And also really valuing that reflection space and allowing emotion to come through if it's relevant to the situation. Now, our sunshine yellow, they may unintentionally dismiss or minimize difficult emotions or complex issues just to try and keep things upbeat and positive. And they may have a lack of focus or consistency when it comes to the goal setting. So they may have unclear goals, too many things, or some potentially missed opportunities. So Sunshine Yellow may benefit from bringing more focus and accountability into a session and paying more attention to the detail, not being afraid to make a note when there's a coachee as well to help support their next journey. Earth Green, they may because of their nature, avoid the difficult conversations and the opportunity to challenge a scenario. And they may focus on the empathy at the expense of taking action and goal setting. Now, as you can probably see here, there are opposite types. If you're coaching someone of the opposite type, it's something to be wary of because, if a fiery red potentially becomes a bit too direct or blunt, and they are coaching someone who's earth green who avoids difficult conversations, there may be a little bit of miscommunication there. If you look over here, someone who's very focused on details and someone who's not so much, someone who prefers some emotions and feelings and someone who may not so much. Again, it's just being aware of where we need to develop and flex that muscle into something that we don't do as much of. And this is all about being an adaptive coach. And like I said, it takes practice, how we're utilizing our energy in the best strengths we have, but also being aware of how we can switch and adapt in any scenario, in any case. So I'm just going to have a little look at your chat here. So I add Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. I lead with red and bring a lot of that into coaching sessions along with your green. Yeah. Faye, I do usually over focus on the details and strive for perfectionism. Yeah. And so it's great that you're recognizing this and then you can start to develop your skills. Just let a little bit go. The worst thing I could probably say to a cool blue is saying good enough rather than perfect. And I know it will make you cringe, but it's something that's great to learn. Cheryl, as I lead with red, I struggle with allowing silence at the start, but through being coached myself, I'm now so much better allowing that silence for the coachee to reflect and fill the gap. It was hard for me to sit and be still. Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, it's practice, it's getting easier. Geraldine, this is so true. Not seen it in this way before. Shona, have to work hard to bring my blue and yellow and red into my dazzling earth green. Yeah, absolutely, Shona. If we sit in one of our colors too much, we're then maybe not giving the coachee all of the 360 that we could potentially. So looking at where we adapt. And so this brings us beautifully into our self-audit space. So keeping in mind what color energy we think we lead with and where our potential gaps in awareness, blind spots are, we can use one of the coaching models that's widely recognized and some of you may already be familiar with. You can not only use with your coachees, but we're going to use it on yourselves. And I'd love you to answer each section in the chat so I can see what you're reflecting on. So this is the GROW model. So here I'm going to talk you through the GROW model, but I'm going to give you some questions. So not only are you going to see it in action, but you're also going to experience it for yourself. So the GROW model is one of many frameworks that we will explore in much more detail on the qualification, but it is a really useful one to be able to ensure that you're really focused on something that the person wants to achieve and how they are going to move forwards. So with this, the first part of the GROW model, the G, is to set your goal. So it's a couple of questions to kind of get your brain juices flowing. So what kind of coach do you want to become? And what's your next development goal as a coach? So I am going to give you some time here. Have a little think and then pop it in the chat. We've got lots of us on the webinar today, so I want my chat to go. It's really important we start with a goal, because if we don't have a goal, we don't know where we're going. But as a coach, sometimes it might be that that's the first part, is where are we going? If we don't know where we're going, it's very hard to map out that journey. Thank you, Geraldine. Now, the more specific you can be here, the better. And you may not be able to right now. You may potentially need a few more coaching questions. But really think about, if we're being really specific, you want to be an effective coach. What does an effective coach look like? Is it that you're not sure what an effective coach looks like, so therefore that may change the goal that you want Do you see what I mean? I want to be an understanding whilst knowing I need to develop the yellow. Lovely. First goal for me is to complete. Second goal, to improve my speech and language to deliver more effectively. Yeah, excellent. When you say complete, Tom, do you mean complete qualification? Do you see what I mean? Specific. And also, this is a great way of doing it because remember, in your head, you'll know what you mean because you're putting it out into the world. It's like, okay, what is it? Yes, and where I want to be as a coach. Thank you, Tom. Excellent. A great trick is actually imagining that you're talking to someone else, or I like to do imagine you're talking to an alien who doesn't have a clue what you're talking about. Now you're going to have to get really specific about what you're talking about because they wouldn't have a clue. Claire, approachable. I do not currently coach, so it's something I need to look to develop myself, who I would want to be and how I would want to come across and develop someone's skills. Lovely. Excellent. And I would just question that word need. That's such a coaching thing to do. And the people who have been coached by me on this call will laugh, I'm sure. But I'm sure it sounds like more like it's something that you want to do or you're aspiring to do rather than needing to do it, because need can feel like such a forceful word. And actually, you're here off your own back. So I'm imagining, well, unless you've been forced to come here. So I'm sure you want to do it. Now, don't worry if you're still writing and answering. I am going to move into the next questions, but keep going in your own time. So the next part of grow is reality. So what is your reality right now? Where are you at? So it's really good to know where we want to go to, but now we need to look at, right, in this moment, where am I right now? So questions to help you with this. What's helping and hindering your progress towards coaching training or using coaching skills in your job role? And what's working well in your current practice if you are already practicing, and what's not? So you may want to just pull parts out of that question, just focus on one. It's up to you. I'm going to read your other answers at the same time. So Cheryl says, a supportive, trusting, and effective coach and understands certain coaching tools in more depth. Shona wants to be a coach that supports through a journey of self-discovery with trust and openness from my coachee, using all the tools in my arsenal. Louise, I want to be an effective coach by getting the best out of my coachee and to allow more silences and utilize my skills to help me and my coachee. Primrose, so your reality at the moment is time and business needs and the pressure. So preventing you from using coaching already or for doing the skills, or both. I saw the eyebrows go up, so I'm thinking both. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It's the classic, isn't it? Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, we hear that a lot, obviously we've got targets, deadlines, things like that. But I tell you what, the coaching style, once you start to embed that into practice in whatever job role you have, it is, I would say, a game changer when it comes to time saving, because you are empowering other people to get to their own decisions, to be able to learn quicker, to get the most out of your people. So I know it's a balance when you're first starting those skills, but it's worth it. Hey, don't worry if you're still typing because I know there were big questions there. But I'm going to move on to the next one. But you keep going with reality. There is no rush here. I can stay on as long as we need. I will make sure you will get to go at past, but I'm still interested in all your answers. So the next part of grow model. So we had the goal, we had the reality. Now we are moving into your options. What are your options? How can you, whatever you want to get to, from where you are, what options do you have to be able to start to move towards your goal? Now, remember, your goal may be a very big one, and it might be that we need to bring it down into smaller goals, milestones to get to it, but that's perfect. So questions to kind of get your brain rolling. What resources, training, or support might help you develop your coaching skills? And what new coaching approaches or tools could you apply if you're already coaching or experiment with? Perhaps conflict management or approaching difficult conversations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything that, if particularly that sort of red energy is maybe one of your lower energies, then actually looking at how you can deal in that space and actually develop skills in that toolkit is going to help improve. And when we are challenging as a coach, we are coming from a assertive place and a place that we want to get the most for that person. So we're not challenging for challenging sake. We are challenging because we recognize something in that person, potentially gap in awareness, that we can then enhance by just bringing a spotlight to it. But we need to be able to manage that situation depending on their reaction as well. We also need to know, if we go back to that um, curve of peak performance, when to push and when to pull back again. I've had many experiences as a coach where, I felt like that the sort of push was right, and then something else came up and I thought, actually, no, I'm going to retreat that, park that. It's not for now because something else has come through. So we need to be flexible in that navigation. Shona, I think I've developed my own style, but I just need to be more, always hungry for more. Information examples around coaching to ignite me along my own journey. Lovely. Shona, what would I pull you up on in that? Because I know I can say that because I've coached Shona before, and her other colleagues may also notice it. What would I tweak in the way that you've written that? Other people might recognize it too as well, because I've said it earlier. Need, thank you. More, how, excellent, wonderful, excellent. What does more mean? And do you need to be more? Or are you choosing to expand your mind and your learning and your, do you see what I mean? Language is so important. And it's another really, I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to the positive psychology language. It's one of my favorite parts of this training. And so on the ILM, we really look at how language can really affect the way that we're not only talking to ourselves, what we are saying out loud in our extrinsic communication, and also then how we are dialing into certain words that our coachees are using, because they could be holding on to something that's really important or something that is hindering their ultimate goal and getting to it. Yes, Shona, we got you. So as we're going around after options, we are then looking at really the biggie here. How willing are you to achieve your goal? Because with a coachee, if you think about it, they go, yeah, I really want to do this. And then they go through where they're at right now and all the things that they could do. But at the end of the day, if they're not actually willing to commit to it and actually do something about it, then it's not going to happen. So of course, if we get to the will and we really find out that they are not actually very willing, we can then go back to the beginning and start again, figure out and dive deeper into what's going on. So for you all, as you're doing your self-audit, here's some questions to spark your minds. So what's one small step you'll take to explore or enhance your coaching further? And what commitment will you make to deepen your coaching practice? Now let's get really specific in the chat. Take some ownership of it before we finish today's webinar. I could hold you all accountable for it. It'll be there in black and white. Imagine it like a little contract. Tom, revisit your training. Excellent. Yeah, it's so easy when we do training, isn't it? To kind of do it and then kind of go out of our mind a bit and actually bringing ourselves back to the things that we've learned. I'm always a big believer that it doesn't matter how many times you can hear something, you can always learn from it. And so even if, like, say, grow, you're very well versed in, actually, there's always something that you can learn and take from it. They asked for some conflict resolution training. Fantastic. Hey, guess what? I know a provider who does that. Now think about Faye though, if you're looking at it in terms of your coaching practice, is it conflict resolution you need, or is it, and you don't have to be able to answer this now, but just reflecting on, is it really the resolution, or is it actually developing something in yourself that you feel confident enough to be able to challenge, or is it more of a conflict management from a more engagement space? Because they are slightly different. So being really specific with your wants in terms of that means you're going to get the more specific training that you would like. Now, keep them coming in because I can see lots of people typing. And if you want to, you're very welcome to email me that. I'll give you all my email at the end as well. So if you want to kind of hold yourself a little bit accountable as well, then please do. Faye, I think a bit of both. I work in substance misuse recovery, so can encounter some conflict with others, but also approaching those difficult conversations. Perfect. So there, you've got more specific again. Well done. Louise, get feedback from your coachee, how they feel and if and how you can improve and what went well. Keep your knowledge active by webinars and things like YouTube sessions and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's all about that learning and keep growing because hence the grow. Because even as coaches, established coaches, both myself and Matt, we've been coaching for, like 18 plus years. We're still learning, developing, tweaking, changing, reflecting on how a session went, what we would do better. And that's what being a coach, is one of the really exciting things about being a coach, and a really important part of being a coach, that we don't just do it one way and it's not a one size fits all. And so keep them coming in, but I'm just going to move on to the next slide. Obviously here today to talk about the ILM certificate in effective coaching. Now on this course, you're going to be able to assess your own skills, your knowledge, your behaviors as a coach, and have time to actually deep dive into that. We're going to look at how to manage that coaching process within an organizational context or bespoke to the context you're in and the industry you're in. We're going to deepen your understanding of how the organizational context can affect coaching, because there are elements that we have to tweak compared to in a freelance coaching practice. We're also going to look at how you can plan, you can deliver, and you can review your coaching. How you can plan your future development in coaching, because it's not just about the here and now. And also make sure that as a coach, you are being coached in that way that's going to make you be able to achieve the goals and the aspirations that you want as well. So if you are interested in developing your skills further, I know some people on here have done some coaching qualifications before, and some have not. But the level 3 is a 4-day course, and the level 5 runs across 5 days. So we have our next cohort coming up on 27th of January, and then we have another one that's also coming up a bit further away in 17th of September. So with this, you'll get a pre-course meeting, you'll get a midpoint and a post-course meeting with your trainer. And it's actually going to be run by myself and my colleague Matt. So you're going to get 2 coaches training you. So you're going to get 2 very different styles of coaching as well. So you're going to be able to see the different ways that we can approach the way of coaching people. You'll also, within that, get a full insights discovery profile. So you'll get to do our full evaluator. So you'll have not only your color order, so you're really going to be working to your personality and who you are, but also you're going to get a list of lots of wonderful things about what kind of strengths you are in much more detail, and also those areas for development that will help enhance your coaching practice. So level 3, you're going to do about 31 guided learning hours. And so level 5, it's going to be 42 guided learning hours. And within the qualifications, you're also going to get some one-to-one coaching with ourselves and also get to practice. And there's a certain amount of coaching hours that you will complete. So you've practiced it, not only in the sessions with us, but also out and about with whoever you choose to coach. So it's a really great opportunity to refine those skills, try out the tools that we give you. And it's very much like, you have your toolkit, we'll put lots of tools in it, and then you'll practice pulling out the right ones at the right time and stretching yourselves that way, being observed by us, and we will, share where you can improve and enhance and spot your good practice, and we'll be able to learn from each other across the course as well. So if anyone is interested in it, then all the details can be found at geraldtraining.co.uk. And I'm also going to pop my email into the chat right now. So if anyone has any specific questions or you want to know more about the qualification or anything like that, then you can get in touch with me at bryony@generaltraining.co.uk. So thank you so much. I know this has been like a proper power hour. Before we go, is there anyone who's got any questions? And if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, you're very welcome to, or you can pop it in the chat. If not, thank you so, so much. And I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bryony.
Thanks a lot.